All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We are trying our best through technology to connect with Cassie this morning. She physically is in Frankfurt and she's supposed to sign on in just a few.
I'm actually here, yeah. So it turns out that I'm able to live stream my continuing education stuff. So I'm not physically there, but I am sort of in a continuing education seminar. So appreciate y'all being flexible with me.
Anytime. The way we feel about in this new world, any connection is a good connection.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Many things in the positive sense, and Lieutenant King and Cassie make some reports today about some good things happening in the Highlands, as well as the up and coming zombie walk. We are having some communications with them, keeping people current about that activity. I think Sean Williams is here to discuss the exciting bed or Airbnb that's going on in front behind the Neat Bar. And again, some new things occurring in our area. If we can today, let's start off with Cassie. Please give us a little hints about the good things and some of your plans that are actually coming to fruition.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get started, but then I'm also going to let Lieutenant King, is Lieutenant King there with you in person?
He is in person.
Wonderful. So I'm going to let him really talk about some of the strides that have been made around violence in the Highlands, because I know that he has worked really hard with his team. And I just want to say, I think the numbers are really impressive. So we have gone from having 13 shootings in the 5th Division year to date last year to only having 1 this year, which is a really significant reduction and really speaks to a lot of the work that different folks in our city are doing. And I'm sure he can speak a little bit more about that, but I think that that's shows some significant strides, which is not to say that we don't still have challenges in the Highlands. I know I met with a group of neighbors this past week and talking about sort of ongoing issues in the Bar District. And, you know, I think we all acknowledge that we still have work to do, but we are definitely headed in the right direction. And I will just say from a citywide perspective, shootings are down 40% year to date. And so I am hopeful that the record investments in violence prevention and in a holistic approach to violence prevention is really beginning to make an impact, certainly throughout the city. But I think we see reductions in the Highlands area that are moving even faster than the city as a whole is moving. The other thing that I want to just talk about in terms of sort of safety improvements and things happening in the Highlands is a lot of you all will notice that the Bardstown Road redesign has officially broken ground. So when you see cones set up along Bardstown Road, that means that after years of talking about it, we are finally moving forward with the redesign. And I know right now, one of the main issues that I hear about is speeding vehicles, noisy motorcycles, people who are driving recklessly. And we know, unfortunately, we do lose people to fatalities from vehicles every single year in the Highlands. And so we are hopeful, and I think Lieutenant King would agree with me, we've talked about this, that some of these pedestrian safety improvements and traffic calming measures are really going to have a big impact. One, it might make it a little less appealing for folks to come and, you know, drag race, drive recklessly in the Highlands. And 2, it's going to increase the visibility of our folks who are out walking in the Bar District and in those corridors. And so really hopeful that we're going to see a lot of positive impact from that as well. The other quick update I have is regarding the late night safety best practices. So a lot of you all have been following this. I know that the Highland Commerce Guild and Aaron have been very helpful in seeing this project through. And so we've been meeting over the past year with different stakeholders to develop best practice recommendations to improve late night safety. That's something that's been weighed in on by late night business owners, by community groups, by LMPD, ABC, different folks have added their thoughts to this. I think we're in the final stages. We're just waiting on Metro Council to sort of approve a resolution saying, hey, we would like to see Louisville Metro government release this. It was going to be an ordinance. We decided it made more sense to do it as a non-binding resolution since we're not creating any ongoing binding laws. So we need to make some technical changes to that, but I'm hopeful that that will be released soon. So I'm happy to take any questions or let Lieutenant King talk for a while and then just stay on standby to answer any questions anyone might have.
All right. Sure. Thank you. All right. Lieutenant King, will you please come up? And your goal is to be in the middle of that square.
All right, I'll do my best. All right, good morning. Just briefly, like Cassie said, that our violence is down considerably so far this year, knock on wood. A lot of that has to do with, there's a lot of things going on now that a lot of things are back in full force. There's a lot of concerts going on. So people, people that aren't coming to the Highland, the people are spread out basically throughout the city. So we're take some pride in that. We do try to get my guys and girls out, walking during the, the evening hours, especially during the weekends, just to be a presence, not so much for enforcement. If we see something, we'll act, but typically just for presence to keep people moving along. Overall, like I said, property crime is still a big issue in the Highlands. People aren't locking their doors to their cars, even when they go to the bars. We tend to see a rise in our theft from autos during the weekends. People leave their purses where you can see them. People walk around, they break windows. So, please put your stuff in the trunk before you get here. Don't let people see you put it in your trunk because that kind of defeats the purpose. We're trying to get with, business owners. Like I said, Cassie and I were at a meeting this week. Some of the neighbors, the bars are always going to be a topic. They bring a lot of people here. They have music, live music, DJs. So it's always a constant battle to keep that under control. Most the bar owners know they have my number. They have my email. I communicate with them almost on a weekly basis. If anybody has any questions, I guess we can just answer questions specific to any issues you are having instead of just sitting here and talking about things. Sir.
Where is the bar district? She referred to, Cassie referred to the bar district. So what do you consider the bar district to be? Considering we've got a bar that I think causes problems down at Taylorsville and Bardstown with the Kroger parking lot. And then that goes all the way up to Broadway. So.
Well, typically what I refer to as the bar district, where we have majority of the late night, in my standpoint, is from Eastern Parkway to Broadway. That's where we have the most, there's, I think last time I counted, it was like 30 something establishments that stay open late that I call the bar. And I know there's Air Devils in all the way up to Bowman Field if you want, the Bambi bar. There's bars all along the corridor, but for my sake, it's Eastern Parkway to Broadway.
So how do you, if there are problems experienced by the residents, how does a non-binding resolution, what's that do to your enforcement? For somebody comes out and throws up on the front yard, is out there singing in 4 a.m.
Well, I always encourage people to call for sure. We won't know there's a problem if you don't call us. Now,
911?
you can call 911 or you can call the non-emergency number 574-7111. Because typically, if people are having problems and they deal with it on their own, then we really don't know about it. Now, we may know the bar may be having loud music and we can deal with that, but we don't know the after effects.
Yeah.
So in that case, sir, I'd encourage you to call.
Okay.
And, even though we're shorthanded, we'll make the run.
Yeah.
Or we'll give you resources. If it's something that's, someone in your front yard, obviously, we need to take care of it. We need to make sure they're safe. They're not, having some kind of medical emergency. But then we also need to document maybe where they came from, and we can address that problem as well.
What's the difference between a resolution, non-binding resolution, and a statute as far as what you can do?
If it's basically if we can take enforcement action.
If you-
I don't know the technical definition, but Cassie may be able to answer
Yeah,
that.
so could I try to, so the best practices document is one, it has information, and I'm happy to share it. It's posted publicly on the Metro Council docket, and I think Aaron has sent it out to some folks on the Highland Commerce Guild list before, but I'm happy to share it more publicly if folks want. So the best practices is not based on the idea of creating new laws. It's providing information about existing laws, and it's also providing ideas about things that aren't legal requirements that maybe business owners haven't thought about. And the goal of that, so things like appointing someone to be your good neighbor point of contact, to go around 30 minutes after close and make sure that everyone that has exited your building is has left the property. And it gives you tips on how you should handle, unruly patrons. If somebody has a medical emergency, what kind of information you should take for when first responders arrive, what you should train your staff on in terms of active shooter drills or sexual assault prevention or all kinds of things. But it's supposed to be resources and information for late night businesses. And the resolution only calls on Metro government to produce and release that kind of report. So that's sort of the non-binding part, is saying, hey, Metro government, we are giving you the authority to release this. We're not creating new laws, but the intention was never to create new laws. I think Lieutenant King would agree that we probably have laws on the books that would let him deal with a lot of the situations that you're addressing, in terms of people maybe being on your property, disorderly premises. We have really broad statutes in Louisville. Some are local, some are state, related to noise, related to, again, disorderly premises is a very broad statute. And so a lot of this, and I think Lieutenant King would agree, is them having the person power to be able to enforce some of the statutes. And like Lieutenant King says, I went out and walked with him recently. I know that they are getting out there and they're walking and they're talking to folks on the street and they're talking to business owners. The numbers suggest that it's making an impact in sort of the district as a whole. The numbers about shootings are for all of the 5th Division, which includes all of the Bardstown Road area. However, it sounds like you're having additional concerns with a particular location. And I'm sure that if Lieutenant King and the 5th Division officers are sort of given more information about what's going on, I found them to be really responsive in dealing with those sorts of things. Lieutenant King, did I say everything fairly, and anything else you want to add about that?
No, I think that's basically a good explanation.
My concern is driven more by potential, and that there's that creek south of ours, and we've got 2 4 AM license applications in the works right now, and we've never seen one turned down. I can't fault the people who want a 4 AM license because it's not an equal playing ground, but I don't see, with all respect, I understand the problems you've got with recruiting and so on, and short staff. But I just see it getting kicked down the road and hoping that something's going to get better. And we are the ones, the people who have committed to living in the Highlands are the ones who keep paying the price. I know a lot of friends from the original Highlands got chased out of the Victorians that they lovingly restored. And, in the march of bars coming down Bardstown Road, it just continues. And the bad actors are still there, and they're still just saying, they've left my property, I don't care. They're over in Walgreens parking lot, they're in the Speedway, they're over in Kroger parking lot. They just go after hours and then they shoot off guns in the air and so on. I mean, there are true safety concerns above and beyond the rowdiness, disruption of our lives, and I look at it as the government's grabbing our taxes from property taxes, and Frankfurt won't let them do anything about our lives being impacted by this cash machine that they receive on the bar.
Well, after the meeting, I'll get with you and we can talk about the establishment that's in question, and
Sure.
I'll look into it. Like I said, Cassie knows that,
Yeah.
I have a pretty strong relationship with the bar owners. I email them all the time. I expect them to be compliant. And that's my overall goal is, for the bars and the restaurants, just be compliant. Just do what you're supposed to do. And that helps us a lot. If they police themselves, that helps us a lot.
Yeah, but if
You
the
know.
crowds go elsewhere.
I know there's so many, the parking's always an issue in the Highlands. And then there's always vacant parking lot, businesses that aren't open at 3 a.m. that just seem to congregate. Folks just end up being there, especially, the Walgreens, Mid-City or whatever. It's a constant problem. You're right. The bar owners, whatever their license says, they kick them out. And then it becomes a neighborhood problem. And typically.
I want to add a couple of things. When Lieutenant King says he has a strong relationship with the bar owners, it's very true. He's in constant contact with them, but I don't want that to be mistaken for, he lets them off easy because the strong relationship, means that they somehow don't get held to account. When he says strong relationship, he means that he sends them strongly worded communications whenever he needs to. And I think that sort of awareness, and quite frankly, even the fact that I've seen him email all of them with concerns about one of them. And I think that sort of pure accountability has begun to make an impact on people's behavior. And I hear you. I am not a fan of the 4 a.m. licenses myself. I do know that Director Kirchdorfer, so he is our ABC director, he's the person that approves all of our any liquor license application that comes through. He recently denied a 4 a.m. application on Bardstown Road. It was at an establishment that had an incident involving guns at the time that the application was pending. And so I think that what that signals to me is that the folks in charge of making these decisions are really paying attention to what is happening on Bardstown Road and to a lot of the concerns that neighbors have raised around issues around violence, quality of life issues, and aren't going to be rubber stamping things. Additionally, I think Aaron could talk about this more, but the Highland Commerce Guild has been really involved in talking to businesses that neighbors have had a lot of concerns about, and that actually resulted in one establishment surrendering their liquor license because of conversations that they had with Highland Commerce Guild and with other folks, and sort of realizing that the way they were operating wasn't a good place to be. So I do think, certainly there's still work to be done. Certainly there are still concerns. Certainly I understand that the community is watching this very closely. I do think that we are making some inroads.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
I think Ray brought up a very valid point, but the focus of the best practices was internal. And again, there's always been the question where, once that you open the door of the business, how far out are you trying to hold them responsible what goes on? So there's been at least the list, the topic list has been expanded because of the best practices. It may not solve everything, but if someone is in compliance issues, if they, one of the bars was very good about this study. They went down the list of recommendations of what they were doing and gave excellent feedback in trying to be total compliance. So if each of the bars would take this list and do a check off, if there are problems, they're probably on that list that they're not checking off what they're doing, that in part. And as Cassie mentioned, how do you control a population that likes to drink at 4 a.m.? That's been sort of going on since Rome. But we take it serious, and our participation in this was very sincere from all levels. And the feedback given by the current participants has at least given them some goals to work with. And then Lieutenant King now has at least a common piece of print where we can say, what, here it is, what are you doing to follow this list?
And if I could add one other thing to that, Aaron, I thought that was a nice summary of how the best practices are supposed to be used. It's also a tool for ABC to sit down with places that might be having problems and say, hey, you all have had incidents. We want to go through this document with you. We want to make suggestions about things that you should be doing. And quite frankly, if it gets to the point that someone's liquor license is at stake, these are very strong suggestions about things that we think that you should be doing to make sure that you are operating a safe establishment. And I'll also note that ABC is going to be providing free trainings for folks about some of the recommendations and the best practices. I'm really excited about the trainings around sexual assault prevention. We have seen a real spike in sexual assault throughout the city, and unfortunately along Bardstown Road, with people putting drugs in people's drinks. And so as soon as we get the best practices finalized, I know there are plans to have a training about how to recognize that, how to tell if someone has had a drug put in their drink versus, perhaps has overconsumed alcohol, and what to do if you sort of notice that situation, how you can be helpful to that person who has had that drug put in their drink, how you can also gather information that would be helpful to any first responders. So there are plans to take different sections of the best practices document and provide free trainings to different businesses. And I'm hopeful that'll be a good thing for the community.
Absolute. All right, moving on to some of the excitement of what's new on Bardstown Road. I don't know if anyone's paid any attention, but behind the Neat Bourbon Bar is Bungalou. And Sean, why don't you come up and tell us what you've been up to? Morning.
I guess I'm supposed to stand.
Now, your goal is to be in the middle of that.
Okay, I think we can make that work. All right. Good morning. I'm Sean Williams. I'm with Bungalou and also here on behalf of Neat Bourbon. Is anybody here familiar with where we're at on Bardstown Road? Anybody been to Neat before? It's an awesome establishment. So just kind of a quick backstory, just a little bit. So just for me, as one of the co-founders, I'm a Louisville native. I grew up here. When I went to U of L, I lived in multiple locations up and down Bardstown Road. I know how much residents care about it. I've cared about it for a long time. And that building that's literally right around here on around the corner next to the old Lily's Cafe, we bought that in 2020, January 2020, right before COVID hit. So obviously we had a little bit of a surprise there when COVID hit us in the middle of construction. But since then, I think it's important that everyone knows that we have personally invested a couple $1 million into this property. I think somebody sent me an article at one point in time that section of Bardstown Road was voted like the ugliest block on Bardstown Road or something like that. So it still needs some love, but if you drive by our building, it's a beautiful building. And so who is Bungalou? It's kind of a riff on the name Bungalou. I'm a real estate agent. My business partners have been in real estate for a long time. We've been working on properties, and we bought this one and it was completely dilapidated. It was 12 apartment units somebody had owned for 40 something years. And since then, taking a step back, Bungalou is a play on Bungalou is a play on Bungalow in Louisville, obviously. So right now we have 6 suites at the property. It's basically it's an accommodation. It is an Airbnb, essentially, is what it is. It's a short-term stay. We have 6 luxury suites. We have a 3,000 square foot game yard. We have a rooftop deck, and we have Neat Bourbon Bar if you've ever been there. The thing that really makes us unique is that we're a lot different than like a hotel per se. You can combine the different suites into different combinations, and you can sleep, if you were traveling and you just have 2 people, you can rent 1. If you've got 30 people, we can host an entire party. And actually here shortly, we're going to be starting construction on phase 2, which would allow us to sleep about another 20 people. So we've had a lot of interest from folks. We actually just had a guest check out this morning. He has a technology company and he has people working remotely across the country. So he brought everybody in to stay for 2 nights here in Louisville, and they rented the entire property inside of Neat Bourbon Bar. They had a conference for 2 days, and it was a corporation that just wanted to bring everybody together. So we do things like that. We see a lot of people coming here for the Bourbon Trail, groups 10, 20 people. They'll start here, go to Bardstown, Kentucky, and come back. We have people that stay here for weddings. We have people, that just come here for date night. So whatever it may be, we see a whole different slew of people coming from across the country to stay here, which is really exciting. I think it's important to note that when you hear Airbnb or when you hear bar, those are probably kind of the two bugaboo words. A lot of people kind of make them squirm a little bit, but I think it's important for people to know that as an Airbnb, number one, we are surrounded by commercial property. So we're not your typical Airbnb where somebody's renting out their house. We're surrounded by commercial property. We're definitely higher end than what you would normally see. We've spent a lot of money on finishes and on furnishings, and that reflects in our price. So we haven't really seen, knock on wood, we really haven't seen too many issues, because people, when they're paying to stay with us, there's kind of an unsaid expectation as to what that behavior is. And we do run a pretty tight ship. We don't mess around. We have had to kick a couple people out. And if you don't follow the rules, you're out immediately. Same thing on Neat Bourbon Bar. If you've never been in there, it's really more of an experience, I would say. He's got bourbons from, all the way back to 1940, 1950. So it's really more of an experience to come in and kind of see a little bit about the bourbon world. And it's not so much a rowdy scene where you've got, people falling over drunk and, loud music playing and stuff like that. So it's definitely a little bit more of a low key vibe, kind of a speakeasy vibe. But yeah, we opened in March. So far, we've got over 130 booked reservations. I would estimate that we've probably had already probably somewhere in the ballpark of 3,000 to 4,000 guests come through our property. And the response has been really, really positive. So obviously with that amount of bookings, that means a lot of revenue and tax dollars that come with that. So that's a good thing. Hopefully that money is being invested back into the local community here through the short-term rental tax and things of that nature. But yeah, that's kind of the overview on the property, and it's been very exciting since we've only been open for a few months, and the response has been pretty good. So
What's your rent range?
well, if you wanted to stay tonight in one of our studios, about $130. If you want to rent the whole property for a weekend, on a busier weekend, somebody rented the whole property for 4 days for Bourbon and Beyond, and they paid upwards of $20,000 for that. For Derby, we got a pretty penny for Derby, and that person actually went ahead and booked for next year, and now we're already getting inquiries for 2024. So it's pretty cool. It's if you want to come in here and stay for the night and it's just you or 2 people, we can definitely accommodate that. But really our sweet spot is people that are traveling with large parties to Louisville, and they're going, I could stay in a hotel, but then I've got a room, you've got a room, and then we're all like, there's nowhere to really commune. Whereas ours, we have this huge courtyard and rooftop deck, and everybody can have their own room, but then they can step outside the room and then they're with the rest of their group. So, yes.
Are you located off the alley? I'm trying to picture where you're located.
We're right there on Bardstown Road. If you're looking,
Facing Bardstown Road?
yes. So you know where Lily's Cafe is?
Yes.
If you're looking at Lily's Cafe, we're directly to the left.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any special events coming up?
Well, so we don't really necessarily do events. We're just the accommodation. So any of the events going around in Louisville, different conventions and stuff like that, that's where we see people looking to stay with us. So.
And I thank you enough
Yeah, absolutely.
coming
Thank
in
you.
and giving us the highlights.
Sure.
And we have to thank Sean, because they are contributing our gift card drawing today, which we'll get around to that in the near future. The excitement, oh, the excitement. Eddie, are you here? Great. Well, one event in the Louisville metropolitan area that has trimmers shake you in your pants. Come on down, Eddie, and talk to us about the 17th Annual Louisville Zombie Attack.
Hello.
Oh, please give some information on you all. We know what the end result is.
Yes.
So tell us how you got there.
Yeah, no worries. Hi, my name is Elam. This is Miranda Jansing.
Hello.
I'm the lead organizer of the Louisville Zombie Attack. She is the new owner of the Louisville Zombie Attack. And so I'm actually gonna have her do most of the talking because I do most of the talking any other time anyway. So I was like, you know, it'd be a great time to introduce yourself to the public. So it's just such a great organization like this, the Highland Commerce Guild. Wonderful experience. So I got it.
All right. So as Ed said, I am the new owner of the Louisville Zombie Attack. I actually purchased it last year. The Louisville Zombie Attack started because my cousin and a few of his friends where they all shared a birthday. And so they put some posters up around, some flyers up around Bardstown Road and said, our birthday is August 29th. And if you want to show up in zombie gear, we're just going to walk Bardstown Road. And they thought they'd get 2 or 3 people. And they actually, the first time, got several dozen people. The next year, it came to like over 100 people. And then it just grew from there. So that's how Zombie Attack got its start. But my cousin moved for grad school. So he sold me the company because he wants it to continue, because it's just a really fun activity for Louisville. And I mean, I get people all the time asking me, when is it going to start up again? Because we had that pause for COVID, of course, because we didn't want to spread zombieism and COVID. So we're really excited for this year because it has been 2 years. The big thing about this year is we are bringing the Guinness Book of World Records in, because the previous record for the largest gathering of people in zombie makeup got
15,000.
15,000. Yeah, but previous years, Louisville Zombie Attack has brought out 30 or more thousand people. So we wanted to claim our award, claim our record, you know, bring another Guinness Book of World Record to here in Kentucky and really share our really fun event with the world.
Real quick, how many of you have been to the Louisville Zombie Attack before?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Look at this. This is great. This is great.
Yeah. So we had to move it to 4th Street this year, mainly because the crowds that we're expecting really has outgrown the area, according to some business people and police, security, the city themselves. We do want to come back to Bardstown Road after we claim our award, of
So
course.
does everyone else.
Yes, everyone. We announced it this week, and there have been a lot of sad faces on our Facebook when they realized we're no longer at Bardstown Road for this year, because with it being a Guinness Book of World Records, they have to have a specific end that we can cordon off and count everyone. So we have to have that official third-party count, and it's easier to, you know, section off like waterfront and count them as they go through entrances. So it's just easier that way. But we really do want to come back to the Highlands because it has been
Part of the culture.
yeah, part of the culture, the counterculture, and it's actually become very popular with families nowadays. People love to dress up their kids like zombies and set them loose on Bardstown Road. you know, but we really do need to work with some of the businesses and of course you all to make it where it is profitable and just good for everybody in general after we get our Guinness Book of World
Right.
Records.
Miranda actually went out and did a survey, right? A
Mhm.
face-to-face survey with 136 businesses along Bardstown Road from the point at which historically the zombie attack started and where it would end. So what was that? Highland and Baxter, Bardstown Road, right where they intersect, all the way down to Eastern Boulevard and Eastern Parkway, and where it intersects with Bardstown Road. And so she mapped out exactly like what businesses were there, like the type of business, whether they had a good experience with the zombie attack, whether they made money, right, or lost money at that time. And a lot of them had some historical data. Some of those businesses were also so new, they really didn't have a lot of historical data there, but they had experienced it before and kind of gave us their input on it. So it was pretty good. It's pretty good information that we got.
Yeah, and I've not, when I did that, I didn't have anybody that said they had a negative experience. I did have some people say that it was profitable, but some of the zombies got a little bit eager. So, but otherwise, it was all positive feedback. So we really want to bring it back to Bardstown Road next year and make it, or just reestablish it as a Highlands activity event and just go back to the roots next year. So, yeah.
So when you say 4th Street, are you talking about Waterfront Park or 4th Street?
Well, we start at 4th Street Live and then we will walk down to the Waterfront Park, because part of the world record is that people have to actually walk in like a parade. So we have to follow the guidelines set forth by the Guinness Book of World Records. So we're going to start at 4th Street Live and then walk down to Waterfront Park.
Market, and then take Market down the brook and then brook down to the waterfront.
Yeah.
How do you create a revenue stream? How do you make money since you bought this business?
Glad you asked that. So that's why I was brought in.
Yes.
One of the things I do in my forte is corporate learning and development. I understand multiple verticals and how they can enhance their business models. And so one of the things that I looked at this was like, okay, this historically has not had a positive cash flow. How can we actually create some form of revenue? So I was asking those same questions, right? And part of that is the fact that there's such a large audience that you can actually invite other businesses in who want to target this audience, right? So we're looking at people from children, which is the target of every company. I don't care who you are, you want kids. And from them up to about age of 35, 45, right? And that's like the median of what we're dealing with here. And who are those businesses, right? Like who are those companies that want to get in, along with other businesses that also participate in things like zombies, like say Call of Duty, where they have an entire line of product that is devoted just to zombies. There's Shudder, which is a horror movie channel. Those type of organizations have been like asking me questions and trying to get a more understanding of what we're actually doing because it's so unique. And there's also other zombie attacks that have popped up. So the idea of what we're doing is actually not as unique as it used to be, which allows us to be more versatile within a lot of marketplaces. So it's pretty much about the audience, right? And then you also have merchandise you can sell. There's the licensing of it that you can offer to other brands, especially when it gets large enough, where we're looking at a nationwide look, right? And that's where Guinness comes in too, is that we want the nation to be kind of looking at Louisville, Kentucky, and looking at this event, and that'll have more of a buy-in for a lot of these other brands.
What's the date and time for the event? And also, you expect like a lot of the zombies to come to the
So the date and time is August 27th. It'll be starting at 3 o'clock at 4th Street Live. We'll have music and games and fun. DJ Samosa will be there. That is a Saturday, yes. We wanted to make it most advantageous to everyone. Because if we did it historically on his birthday, it actually was a Monday. So and then I'm sure a lot of the people, once they leave Waterfront Park, will be headed to the Highlands, because we're only going to be there till 10 p.m. And those same folks are going to still want to get kind of crazy and rowdy. And what I'm saying, like do their historical drinking binge. So at Waterfront, we're still planning the rest of that out. We'll have a couple vendors there. It won't be like 4th Street because we want to mainly focus on the Guinness counting. So they'll have a couple vendors there. They'll have music to just kind of get people brought in. We'll do the count. We'll have a celebration for that. And then people are dispersed at that point, you know. And then we're also working to get some handy accessible methodologies to bring people from 4th Street to the waterfront so that everybody can participate and not just those who are capable of doing so.
Well, you're the first to know. Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
coming,
Thank
and
you.
please stay, don't run away.
Oh,
All right. Well, you know, while you were talking, you know, in horse racing, there's like dead last, which I've been the grand holder of that ticket before, but now I'm trying to figure out the dead first. I mean, you know, bringing all these guys in town, you know, so congratulations on thinking this through and the courtesy to the community to ask. Very few people seem to get that right now. So I'll give you kudos for that. And hopefully, as in the past, they'll respect the Highlands as they have in the past. Thank you. Well, one thing that we generally like to do is have introductions. And so let's start with Jeff Myers and go around and let everybody know.
Jeff Myers, realtor with the Van Mitchell Realtors, treasurer of the Highland Commerce Guild.
Good morning, I'm Nick Morris, owner of the Safety and Security Store and Highland board member.
Good morning, I'm with Park Community Credit Union, it's got business accounts, any type of loan. I'm Deanna O'Daniel, I'm the owner of Self Seeking Houses, and I also run an Airbnb on Highland Commerce House.
I'm Larry Williams, I'm just a trustee of the Cherokee Triangle Association.
I'm Rick Burnington with the Highland Neighborhood Association. My remarks were my own, but
Beth. Yeah.
Good morning, Victor.
Great. All right. And online. Good morning. Amy's got control. I can't figure out how she's got control, but Karen, why don't you start?
Thank you, Aaron. Good morning, everyone. A great meeting here, and thanks to the Highland Commerce Guild. I'm a former board member. I'm with Park Community Credit Union, and always a pleasure to see everyone. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. Thank you. Paula, are you in there? Okay, anybody that's online, would be glad for you to introduce yourself. I never met a shy techno person in my life. Come on, get on that.
Hi, my name is Kay McAfee. I apologize, my camera isn't on due to low bandwidth, but I wanted to pop in and join this morning. I previously had attended your meetings in person. I am now, of course, in Frankfort with Kentucky Housing Corporation, but I'm a resident of the area and very familiar with the zombie walk, as my daughter participates every year. But again, this is such a great group to engage and connect with and just know more about the love of the Highlands and Louisville in general. So really excited to hear the topics this morning and look forward to continuing to participate.
Thank you, Kay. It's always good, whether in person or not, it's always good to connect. All right, is Paula Demuth? All right, going once, going twice. I know you're in there. I see you. I'm Aaron Givhan, Givhan Mitchell Realtors, commercial residential real estate. All right. Well, the real reason everyone here, I'm sure, is the drawing today. And Nick is so good to put this together. So Nick, let's get the drummer rolling.
Thank you, Aaron. First, I would like to thank Sean Williams for attending today and giving us some a good update on the Bungalou. And it's always so encouraging to hear of a business investing that amount of money in the Highlands. I mean, I certainly welcome that and hope we have more in the future. So anyway, without further ado, Aaron, if you would just throw out one of those numbers, please.
This is deeper. Thank you.
And I have written down everyone's name and with a corresponding number next to it, and whatever number Aaron has is the winner.
Number 2.
Number 2 is Ray Brundage.
What a man.
And Sean has some items for you, Ray,
So we
so.
don't like really have anything to give away or, I can't believe the way we're doing or anything, but Neat Bourbon Bar was nice enough. They've got a bourbon candle and then they've got a hat and shirt from the, yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that Ray has a new wardrobe. I'm sure Cindy would be very impressed. Oh, actually, that is really nice. Well, we, by luck, picked a very active neighborhood representative, so I'm glad that he was here today. Well, I cannot thank you enough for spending some time and energy with us. By all means, stick around afterwards. Cazito products and coffee are available. Yes, sir.
I should have asked this when Cassie was still on board. I'm assuming she's gone.
She's in education, but ask.
The question would be the density issue with the Airbnbs and 600 foot
Yes.
line. I saw a map the other day that really showed how that's been violated. I don't know if that's a serious problem. Is that something we're dealing with or the Metro Council dealing with?
The word dealing with is probably a good summation. What happens on the exemption is if you owner, home, liver, and again, if you care to elaborate, because some of us participate in the Airbnb program. So if you would, please help us out.
Well, I've been established before all these complaints started. But I'm owner occupied and my neighbors have told me they have no idea that I have an Airbnb in my house. So if you, I don't know anything other than that, but I think they're really discouraging the non-owner occupied units because they get out of control many times. There's nobody there to supervise them.
Well, is there anybody supervising the 600 foot rule? That's really the goal of my question.
Yeah.
In
I
part,
don't know.
it's my understanding, again, Cassie, I'm sure we'll get back with you on this, but it's my understanding is owner occupied, there are some exemptions to the 600 foot rule.
Okay.
And owner occupied, I think, is what triggers that. If you live in your home and they are now having, this came up in the neighborhood meeting Cassie made reference to, and they had somebody from the Airbnb was there. So if I remember correctly, they are in compliance because of the exemption. And again, Cassie can get the specifics, but that's the reason why the 600 foot rule was about non-occupied.
Well, it may not be
Owner
a good
occupied.
rule. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of density if you look at a map of the
Yes.
houses. And it's incredible how many there are, which I don't have a problem with that. I'm just interested in, if no one's enforcing the 600 foot rule, then
I think what you're seeing is there's a compliance because based on certain information, being an owner occupied is different than a non-occupied structure.
I got you.
And that's the reason why you see the density difference. A unoccupied structure has to have a local contact person now. And if they don't, the Airbnb groups, advertisers are supposed to pull it. That you can't unless you prove yourself to having local contacts and you're registered with the city. These Airbnb promoting companies have agreed not to promote. Yes.
there's a catch with the owner occupied is that people claim to be the owner living on site and are not.
And
Not much.
they mentioned the cases that if neighbors bring proof, one individual was from Indiana swearing that he lived there, and they took photographs and turned it in. And they do not have enough people to go out, but when the information is brought in, they turned him down because he claimed to be owner occupied and wasn't.
And second, and there's a tax that will hit in cases like that. But secondly, there is actually a Metro Council. I had a Metro Council person tell me that her district, if she had Airbnbs, it would be a win. Because she's in one of those less fortunate neighborhoods where tax money, investment and so on is a good thing for her district. And so there is a lot of kickback against areas like ours that are, pretty well funded. And so it's hard to move the ball on that.
But I will follow up with Cassie, make sure but it came up in another meeting that we both were at. And I do know that the person that was responsible for following the Airbnb program stated that while they didn't have the staff to go out, that the neighbors provided information and that there is a higher standard of effort of people when they claim they're owner occupied and they're not. And that's from the neighbors participating.
I can speak to it just a little bit real quickly. So on the if you're owner occupied, you fill out the paperwork, send it in, you're good to go. You have to provide proof of it. If you're non-owner occupied, you actually have to go through a process of notifying the neighbors, having a neighborhood meeting, and actually going in front of the board for planning and zoning, where neighbors can show up and express their concerns with that. I do have a property that's residential over by U of L, and we went through that whole process, and we're registered as an Airbnb, but we don't operate it that way. But there are some obstacles you got to get over, so it's not just as easy if you're not owner occupied. Also, in order to operate on the sites, you do have to input your license number. So you do actually have to get verification that you have a license in order to get on those websites. And Airbnb, I just received an email yesterday that now they have a complete no party policy, which obviously they're not really the ones enforcing that. But basically your Airbnb gets shut down and removed from the website if there's a complaint from someone else. So they have taken some measures to kind of help make it at least a little bit harder for people that are trying to do that. So,
yeah. All right. Well, please stay around, enjoy the goods and the coffee and the company. Thank you all for being here.